you like t-shirts? Because here are some super limited edition Dragon Month and Fairy Month Noggin t-shirts. Check out this edgy noggin design, completely surrounded by Pokemon Dragon things and Pokemon Fairy things. They're pretty cool, and the only way you can guarantee that you'll get one is by pre-ordering. Because, kinda like Kickstarter, we're going to take the pre-order numbers and order that many shirts to be made. And then they're gone. Gone forever. And of course, merch like this helps support this channel tremendously. Now then, dragons. No other type of Pokemon is filled with as many large, powerful, aggressive beasts. Earlier in our special Dragon Month, we covered how the dragon type works, what grants these behemoths their power, so be sure to check out that video for those details. In summary though, for what you need to know for this video is that the dragon type is best explained as a sort of magical type, sorcery type, arcane type, specifically draconic, elemental, dark, arcane magic. But for now, today, we're going to be looking at every single dragon type move and explain what the Pokemon does while performing it, and how it just might work. Now let's start with a move that further explains what I mean by magic, because even the official description of the move Dragon Dance gets that across. The user vigorously performs a mystic, powerful dance that boosts its attack and speed. And earlier games simply described it as a mystical dance, so clearly the dragon type is a form of draconic, mystical power, magic, which is commonly associated with dragons. When using the move Dragon Dance, the dragon, or Barboach, moves in a way that causes this draconic magic energy to build up within its body. So much so that some surges out of its body, which is the energy we see around the Pokemon. You'll notice that most dragon moves are of these colors, essentially the color of arcane magic in the Pokemon universe, I suppose. This magic finds its way into the muscle fibers of the Pokemon, beefing them up supernaturally, speeding up the brain-muscle connection with the electricity-looking particles here, which thus allows them to move faster and hit harder. Now interestingly, that is the only dragon-type move that is categorized as a status move. Dragon is a very aggressive type. So let's cover the easier moves next and then get to the more complicated ones later. So to start with the very straight and narrow physical dragon moves, we get to Dragon Claw. It's a dragon. It's got claws. Dragon Claw! It slashes its opponents with great power. In the older games, the animation showed the user building up the magical dragon power before swiping its claws, and the newer games show lots of that arcane energy intertwined with the claw marks themselves, which differentiates this move from other claw attacks. And this is the same theming we see with many of the other physical dragon moves. Dragon Tail has the user fill its tail with the arcane energy and smack its opponent so hard they get launched away out of the battlefield. Dragon Rush, also known as Dragon Dive in other languages, has the user tackle their foe while exhibiting overwhelming menace. See, that's what it says. So essentially, they are, again, filling themselves up with this dark, arcane sorcery energy before using that to ram themselves into their opponent. It's a magical tackle. It's similar in concept to Outrage, which has a curious name in Japanese, as it could translate to Imperial Wrath. And it's similar to this common idiom, which translates as to infuriate one's superior, essentially implying that dragons are a superior type, which they sort of are, especially considering most dragon Pokemon are legendary, pseudo-legendary, or otherwise super powerful and super important. And this move has them fill themselves with their dragony power to become infuriated for 3 turns in a row. Constantly, they are giving out their fiery, draconic wrath, so much so that they wind up confused at the end of the 3 turns. It's much like coming off of a massive, magic-induced adrenaline rush. You know, haven't you ever become an avatar of Rage Incarnate? And when the mana fades, you wind up, just kind of a bit out of it, like, where am I? Okay, hang on. What just happened? What did I just do? And you've got a little pointy hat because it was magic-induced adrenaline. Dragon Hammer is the signature move of Alolan Exeggutor, the dragon-type palm tree. It basically just falls over, slamming its head into you, and you can tell it's a dragon-type move because instead of just kicking up dust and rock from a slam, it's also got purples and pinks in the animation. See? Dragon magic could be spurting out of this long shaft's head. Zzz. And you know what's funny? Tropius can actually learn this move too if you breed one with an Alolan Exeggutor. The baby learns it. I guess it's also a palm tree, which are so so dragony? Look forward to the Dragon Pokemon Explained video to explain that connection. The last of the physical dragon moves is Dual Chop, and through name alone you can already sort of see what I mean when I say, this move doesn't really need to be dragon type. It'd probably be better not dragon type. Here's the description in game. The user attacks its target by hitting it with brutal strikes. The target is hit twice in a row. The key word is brutal, I'm sure. Being brutal makes it dragony, I guess. Though the same could be said of dark type. Dark type is all about using dirty tactics and being mean and aggressive. You can also be brutal with fighting type and even normal type attacks, just raw, angry chops. Even the animation for this attack doesn't have any sort of dragony mana energy shown. It's just 2 chops. Even more recently, the animation just adds the bare minimum of dragoniness. Do mainly dragon type Pokemon learn this move naturally? There's the Garchomp line, Haxorus' line, and that's all the dragons that naturally learn it. And then there's Ambipom. And Machamp's line, and also Sceptile, but at least Mega Sceptile gains the dragon type, but this is also the only dragon move it naturally learns at all, and it's the least dragony of the dragon type moves by far. I feel like this is all foreshadowing something. Alright, is it a TM? No, it's not a TM. Move Tutor. Yeah, lots of Pokemon learned this attack through Move Tutor, and while there are some more dragons in here, most of them aren't. I've seen some pretty messed up stuff involving Lucario, but none of that has implied that it's draconic in any way. Same goes for Midnight Lycanroc and Incineroar. Why, internet? Why? Anywho, if a Pokemon can do the karate chop motion pretty naturally, it can basically learn this move too, pretty much. Pangoro, Mindfu, Electabuzz, Binnacle, you get the idea. Fighting or dark would have made more sense. I'm not really upset about it though, because I guess every type needs its lame move. This move is good for giving other Pokemon a dragon type attack that makes sense, for type coverage or whatever. Moving on now, we get to start covering the special dragon type moves, starting of course with the classic Dragon Breath. Nothing says dragon quite like breathing fire, except that's the move Flamethrower. That's the fire breath. So how is Dragon Breath different? Well, back in the early gens, it wasn't so different besides in type. Obviously, the animation would just show the user breathing fire again. But it's coming from a dragon, or Onyx, so it's dragon type. But from Gen 4 onwards they got it down. Rather than just flame breath, it's purpley pink plasma flame breath. So again, I'm sure you've put the pieces together. It's fire breath with arcane draconic magic imbued into it. Raw mana energy. It's such a blast of raw energy that it has a high chance of paralysis too. Dragon Rage is, well, sort of the opposite of a raging attack now that I think about it, as the whole idea of the attack is that it's sort of holding back from using all of its potential. The user breathes magical fire breath again, but this time it just deals 40 HP in damage. Always. Never less, never more. In early game, that's useful, I suppose, but eventually, like, oh yeah, here comes Chansey with 700 plus HP! Interestingly, more recent games describe this attack as a shockwave of pure rage, even though it doesn't really seem like it. Though, I guess someone else being angry in your vicinity can only hurt you so much. Perhaps it works similarly to the Hadouken in Street Fighter. Most people believe it's a fireball, but it's not. It's a burst of chi energy, the spirit and emotion of the user put into what is essentially a ranged punch. Dragon Rage is that, but it's from a mad dragon. All in all though, it's just Dragon Breath, but with some metagaming. Dragon Pulse, though, is where it's at. Described as a shockwave, but depicted as a laser, the Pokemon opens its mouth and sends out more arcane energy. This time, it ain't fiery at least. Draco Meteor is super draconic. Several Pokemon can learn it, and all of them are dragon type. None of this Charizard, Aerodactyl, and Barboach stuff. Though there was one event Jirachi that could learn it, but I mean, it's a meteor move, and Jirachi is a comet Pokemon, so I mean, you gotta. This move has the user summon several comets from the sky imbued with arcane power to slam them into the opponent. It's mighty powerful and fits the arcane theming that we explained in the last video perfectly. Creating or summoning such magical meteors is a common high-level spell in fantasy, and what beast is more magical than a dragon? Tuister has the user summon up a tornado and pushes it into the enemy. Being a tornado, it's of course able to hit Pokemon using Fly and other such moves. It's quite useful, just being able to summon a tornado. You know, you stuck in traffic? Woo! Twister. Now, without looking too deep into it, this move doesn't seem all that dragony. It's wind, you know? Seems more like flying type to me. But doing just an ounce of research will have you find that tornadoes in nearly every region were originally blamed on the actions of dragons. In other words, dragon mythology is filled to the brim with dragons being the sole cause of them. Even Ryujin, the most famous dragon in Japanese myth, is said to not only cause tornadoes, but even turn into them. And considering the magical ability of dragons, such an attack is far from improbable. Though there are also loads of flying type Pokemon that can learn the move too. Though I'm sure that's all due to their mastery of the wind. If you can fly in a circle enough, you'll create a tornado. Right? That's how that works, right? None of this temperature, air pressure stuff, yeah? Clanging Scales is the signature move of Kommo-o, as its scales are very clangy, after all. And it does just that. It clangs all of its large musical scales together and sends the intense noise towards the opponent. Loud noises hurt because they damage our eardrums. And since this noise comes from a dragon, it's dragon type instead of normal. Considering the arcane theming, it may be like how certain words or phrases can work as incantations of spells, or how certain dragons have names that should not be said because the speaking of their name makes them more powerful. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. Moving on with Core Enforcer, the signature move of Zygarde, which is also known as Core Punisher in Japan, and Sanction Suprême in French, has Zygarde leap into the air and draw a huge Z in the ground with a mighty laser. It's like peeing in the snow. Again, considering the color of this energy blast, we can assume raw, magical energy being blasted. This one just happens to be from the guardian of the ecosystem, so it's green with nature's wrath. The signature moves of Dialga and Palkia are nothing to be messed with. Roar of Time has Dialga fire a blast of energy that is so powerful it distorts even time itself, which scientifically speaking is complicated. So complicated that we're gonna give it its own video. But for now, let's just say gravitational time dilation and E = mc squared. But it would clearly take something as magically powerful as a time dragon to perform such an attack. Also, time dragons are a thing in various fantasy realms. Spatial Rend, then, is much easier to explain. Palkia just distorts space a bit, you know? Nothing special or anything. If you take the space that your top half is taking up and move it to the left just an inch, well, you die. The description of the move sounds pretty brutal too. Palkia tears the foe along with the space around it. Yeah, just tears you to pieces, and all the air around you too. Again, a mighty powerful arcane dragon with space powers is what it would take to warp reality in such a way. Powerful to the max. And lastly, let's cover the two dragon-type Z moves. Clangorous Soul Blaze is the signature Z move of Kommo-o, wherein it basically just does the same thing as its other move, Clanging Scales. It's just a lot bigger because it's filled with Z power. Though it also boosts all of its stats, which is fitting. This line of Pokemon are partially inspired by Haka dancing, a war dance done by many Polynesian warriors to get them souped up to fight. So it's essentially really beefing itself up with its war dance. Ooh, getting that adrenaline pumping! And then there's Devastating Drake, the generic dragon-type Z move. But don't let the word generic make you think it's lame. Its description states, the user materializes its aura using its Z power and attacks the target with full force. And if you look at the blast, it's shaped like a dragon head. This move also helps in explaining how the dragon type do, as it's literally materializing the aura of the Pokemon. Yeah, the arcane energy within it becomes physical and gets launched into the enemy. And what would work better as a Z move than something like that? All these dragon moves require an excess of some sort of arcane mana energy natural to dragons. And to compress that energy into a physical form takes an insane amount of energy by itself even. Clearly, something only possible with the help of a Z crystal. And those were the dragon-type moves. We'll likely get more in Gen 8, but I didn't want to wait that long. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to check out the other videos this Dragon Month. And be sure to stay tuned, because next month is Fairy Month. Have you any extra notes to add to any of these moves? Let me know down below, and please remember to never stop using your noggin, and never stop pre-ordering this t-shirt over and over again, millions of times! Whoa!